Hi guys, it's Alex here. So today I wanted to do a quick overview of a tool that I'd never thought that I'd be doing a overview/review on, which is the Buck Tool 4x36" belt sander. Ta-da! Now at this point in my life, I have gone through four 4x36" belt sanders. They've all been terrible and they've all lasted less than a year. The main problem that I have with those kind, and you probably all know what ones I'm talking about, the ones that you buy from your big, the big box stores, the ones with the belt drives, and they all kind of look exactly the same, which means they're all probably made by the same company. Yeah, those are the ones that I'm talking about. The main problem with those is that they lack one thing: power. This does not lack power. This has a little bit more powerful motor than the ones that you're probably used to, and it also has a direct drive, which means no belts, which rob power from the belt sander. The belts, they take a lot of force to turn over, and again, that just robs a lot of that power that you need to run this. I wish that there was a company that made a real professional version of a 4x36. This is a tool that I use almost every day. Now I have a 2x72, and when I first purchased that, I figured that my 4x36 would never be used again, and that's just simply not the case. I love having a 4x36, especially one that actually works and that actually has some power to it. Now this right here, the configuration that I have set up here in front of you today is not how this comes. This comes with a whole bunch of other stuff on it. It comes with like a work rest here for this for the 4x36" portion. It also comes with a dust guard. I've since modified this to kind of fit my needs. Everything sort of works on it when you get it. The dust guard works okay. The problem with the dust guard on here, which I took off and threw away because I just don't use it, I have a big dust collector that I use instead. The problem with it is that in order to change belts, you have to take it off. So it's kind of a pain in the butt to change belts, and I change belts a lot, so that kind of went in the trash, and I just use my dust collector. The work rest for the vertical portion of this here, it was terrible. It's basically worthless. Just keep that in mind when you're purchasing this, is that vertical work rest is not going to do much for you. Now there might be a way to modify or make one that does work on this, but for me, I just got rid of it because I don't really use that portion of it. If I'm going to use a vertical work rest to square something off or whatnot, I'm just going to use this right here, the disc grinder section. Now this is the 8" version. It's a 5 amp motor. They said the horsepower on here, but I don't think that it's accurate. I think they said it was a 3/4 horsepower, but 5 amps doesn't really add up to 3/4 real horsepower. So kind of take that into consideration. This does not lack power. Sure, everything could be a little bit more powerful, but this is by far the most powerful 4x36 that you're going to find on the market, as far as I know, at least without spending, you know, thousands of dollars and going to something like maybe a 4 or a 6x48 or whatever the next size up is. Again, I wish that there was a company that made a real industrial version of a 4x36, because for me, it's nice to have access to the 4x36 inch belts. My local hardware stores and Home Depot, they all sell the 4x36 inch belts, and it's nice to be able to have access to one that I can just go purchase. And sure, they're more expensive at the big box stores and whatnot than you can buy online, but sometimes you're in a pinch and you just have to go out and you know, purchase one off the shelf for more money. Again, I like that about this. I can't do that with my 2x72, and I can't do that with you know, a 4x48 or a 6x48. Again, whatever the next size up is. I can't remember off the top of my head. That being said, I think this is the next best thing. The other nice thing about this belt grinder is that it has plenty of belt speed. Because it's a direct drive and you don't have the pulleys sort of reducing the belt speed, you do get a much higher belt speed than on your belt-driven 4x36s, the ones that you buy off the shelf from Home Depot. That's especially nice when you're working with metal, which is what I do a lot. So let me kind of bring in here and I'll show you what I've done to the Platen area here on the 4x36, and we'll talk about the disc portion. So here it is, sort of up close and personal. Hopefully you can see everything. So the first thing that I did to this was I added a ceramic platen, or a glass, what most people would call a glass platen. This makes a huge difference in terms of how flat your material is going to be when you go ahead and sand it. The stock Platen wasn't super flat. I've actually had pretty good luck so far with all of the previous sanders that I've had where the Platen was fairly flat, but over time that'll wear out, especially if you're working with metal and ceramic belts. So this glass Platen is a major upgrade, and it makes a big difference in terms of the finishes on your knives, especially if you're using this for grinding flats, which is what I do. So that sort of brings me into the next thing. Is the thing that I use this for the most is actually grinding knife flats and flattening material on here. It works really good on metal up to 150 grit. Once you get beyond 150 grit, you can start to run into belt bump issues, which is where you have the seam of the belt actually is a high spot on the belt, and as that belt goes around, it will hit your flat piece and basically cause a bump, and it'll cause all kinds of weird looking things going on in knife flats if you go too fine of a grit. You really need a belt that has a thicker backing, you know, below 150 grit or up to 150 grit. But that really does save a lot of time. It really helps get mill scale off of things and heat treating scale and that sort of thing, and really gives you a good base if you want to start hand sanding at that point. Let's move on. I don't want to spend too much time talking about one thing, but the disc grinder portion of this works really well. It's really powerful. This is the 8-inch version. I believe they sell a 6-inch version of this, but I'm not sure if it's the same. I can't comment on that because I've never used it. They say it has the same motor specs. It's just a smaller disc. You can take that for what it's worth. But this works really well. It's nice and powerful, like I said. This will really hog off material with a high quality abrasive stuck on here. Now, the first thing that I did was remove the stock disc that came on here and take off the stock adhesive that they use, which was a pain to get off. It took me a very long time to get that stock disc off of here and all of that old adhesive, and I tried everything to get it off. What works really well on here, and if you plan to use a disc of any kind in your life at some point, it is worth going out and purchasing some 3M feathering disc adhesive type 2. I'll leave a link to this in the description because it makes disc changing just so much faster. Before, you'd have to like peel it off and then spray tack or whatever this back on. Just don't do that and buy this stuff. It just works so much better. This is expensive, but it's worth every penny in my opinion. The work rest on this is okay. You can square it up and it holds a square fairly well. This is much better than the one that comes on this portion. This one, I literally just threw it in the trash can because it was just worthless. But this one works okay. I've actually used this to finish the front portions of my scale material. I just tilt it like this and then go to town and do the 22.5 or whatever angle on the front portion of the knife scales, and it works fine. The dust collection on this works really well. It doesn't miss any dust whatsoever, as long as you don't sand over here and throw it up in your face. So let's talk about the motor real quick. The power motor is a 5 amp motor, but the main thing that I find is that the direct drive makes such a big difference in terms of smoothness, as well as the power output and the belt speed. Those are two main things that you really want to keep in mind, especially if you're working with metal. You need that higher belt speed, especially if you're going to be using ceramic belts. The sanders that I've had previous to this, they didn't work super well with ceramic belts just because the belt speed wasn't high enough and they weren't powerful enough to really break down that abrasive in order to expose new abrasive to keep cutting. I've actually been able to go back and reuse a lot of my old ceramic belts with this because this just has the power and the belt speed to turn them, and it just works a lot more effectively with ceramic belts. So another thing real quick is the belt tensioning device has a really nice strong spring on it, which a lot of my other ones didn't, and that meant that the belt wouldn't sit on there super tight and super flat to the top of the platen, which is kind of an issue as well. But this one has a nice tight spring on it, and it puts a decent amount of tension on the belt. No issues with belt tracking. I wish that the knob wasn't like hidden back in here. I wish it was kind of sticking out on the side like this that I could just turn. Sometimes it's difficult like getting your fingers in there, and I don't know, it's just a minor complaint. Other than that, I'm not really sure what else to say about this other than, again, it does come with some other stuff. Like, I think it comes with like a little foot that mounts under here to keep it steady from going like that. I took that off, threw it away, because the bench that I usually keep this on, I just screw the main body to the bench and I don't have issues with it moving around like that. That's what I would recommend you do. This is just the configuration that works for me. Another real quick thing about this ceramic Platen, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on, what this is and how I attach it and all that, but this is just a piece of ceramic. It's like ceramic fireplace glass. Regular glass will not work. It'll crack and shatter and send shards everywhere. So get yourself a piece that's made specifically for this and attach it with, this is attached with, what is it called? JB Weld. It has to be a high temp epoxy or the epoxy will fail. So far I haven't had a problem with it. I did make a little shelf back here for it to stick on. And so far it hasn't gone anywhere, and I've used it pretty heavily, grinding some pretty heavy stock. Other than that, guys, I'm really not sure what else to say about it other than it just works. It has plenty of power, especially compared to all the other 4x36s out there on the market. It's not a sponsored video. I can say whatever I want about it, and that's what I'm saying. Again, I wish a company made like a real heavy-duty professional version of this with like a good 1 horsepower variable speed motor that ran 4x36 belts. I'd be the first person to buy one because I use this all the time. But yeah, that's basically it. If you have any questions, ask me in the comments below. I'm going to leave a link to this exact one in the description. I'll also leave a link to 3M feathering adhesive, and hopefully this review was helpful to somebody. I would definitely recommend this. And if anything changes, I'll let you know. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.